Good evening and welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show. This is a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So this is a one-off video, a request video if you want, from one of my subscribers. His name is Ganesh. So this is for you, Ganesh. You asked for 5 albums that are clear with good production. That I'm assuming you want progressive stuff, although I did throw one hard rock album in here just because I think it's got good stuff on it and pretty good progressive, not progressive stuff, but pretty good clarity and production to it. I chose, and then I'll basically give these in a kind of an alphabetical order, since there's not any ranking or anything. It's just 5, I think, pretty solid, great sounding albums with pretty good production on them. If you enjoy this and you guys want to hear more, you can let me know and I'll try to get 5 more together. But anyways, we're going to do this set, and I hope you enjoy this, Ganesh, because I know you waited a bit for it, and so I wanted to do it as quickly as I was able to. I had planned to maybe do it last night. I was a bit tired last night, so I think I'll try it tonight. So we're going to start out with this album. I don't know if anybody can see that. I don't know why it's so bright all of a sudden here. So anyways, for those of you who are not familiar with this album, I should put it right here. Right here. I guess here is good. This is King Crimson's Lark's Tongues in Aspic. Solid sounding album. Lots of really good tracks on here too. Like, I think the sound on here is really good. Most King Crimson albums fall within that range, I find. This one's one of the better ones too, I think. So you got basically 6 tracks on here. 3 of them have vocals on them. The other 3 do not. The other 3 are instrumentals. Part 1 of Lark's Tongues in Aspic and Part 2 of Lark's Tongues in Aspic bookend the tracks on the album. Pretty clear sounding. Lots of different instrumentation. If you like to hear a lot of different sounds, this album will give you that for sure. And there's some really solid stuff on here. Easy Money, Exiles, I like those both a lot. The Talking Drum, which is, I believe, I believe that's the other instrumental on the album. I'm only just getting familiar with this album myself. It was in my the Great Prog Wars series that I did. I think it got a couple listens too from that. Usually when I buy an album, I listen to it once, or I put it on the need to be listened to shelf, and I listened to it at least once, and then it was in the series, so a couple more times, and then one other time I played it on my stereo system in my room. So basically when I'm listening to music, I listen to it when I'm in the kitchen doing or cleaning in the house. I usually put it on the TV set thing, which isn't so great of a sound. Or if I don't have the album, I'll play it on one of the 2 computers. And I also have my stereo system in my room, which is better sounding than all of that. So I use that when I really want to, when I'm lying down and really concentrating, I get to listen to it very well. And this one I liked quite a bit doing that. So anyways, for if you're not familiar with King Crimson, and not everybody, this isn't a band for everybody. I think King Crimson, like Gentle Giant and Rush and some other bands, tend to have people that really like them, and then there's a fair number of people that can't get into them or don't find them appealing at all, and King Crimson falls into that kind of category. So on this is David Cross, violins, viola, and mellotron. Robert Fripp, guitars, mellotron, and devices. John Wetton, what was I thinking? John Wetton on bass and vocals. His voice is really good on this as well. Bill Bruford, of course, the exceptional Bill Bruford on drums. And then you have Jamie Muir on percussion and all sorts. So lots of different types of instrumentation sound on here, and pretty clear sounding album. That's the first one. So the second one up out of the book is an album I've only recently discovered. It was the first of this band. I've listened to it twice. Once when I first got it, like I said earlier, what I normally do, put it on the listening stand and then I pull it out and I play it. I did it. I immediately liked it enough that it went onto the waiting list to get onto my playlist, and it's on my playlist now. Just entered there last week. It's very clear sounding. You can hear a lot of the instrumentation really well on this album. I think it's a well put together. And for those of you who are not familiar, this is Porcupine Tree's Light Bulb Sun. I think this is probably so far I've got 3 Porcupine Tree albums. I've listened to them all once. This is the one that I like the best so far. But one listen is really not a way to rate an album. I like the clear sound of it. Some nice tracks on here. The first song, Light Bulb Sun, was the one that captured me right away. Not as familiar with the rest of the stuff, but enjoyed listening to the entire album. Haven't had a chance really to listen to it on my stereo in my room. I have listened to it on the internet, of course, and I listened to it when I got it on the TV set, which isn't such a great thing, but I noticed right away that it was very much clearer than a lot of albums. So yeah, Porcupine Tree, Light Bulb Sun. It's a nice shot in the middle too. The other thing about this album too, if you're not familiar with these guys, they are progressive rock, a later stage, like they would call maybe third stage progressive rock band, meaning that the stuff in the 70s is stage 1, and then you got your neo-prog stuff that was stage 2, and then you got this, which would fall into the stage 3 in the 90s. Solid band, solid album. Okay, the next one up comes from my favorite band, and I wasn't sure which of their albums to choose from, but I chose this one because I've always been impressed with how clear you can hear all of the different instrumentation played on this. I thought about going with the one that went predecessor to it, but I did think this one is clearer. And if you play this loud enough, you can hear a lot of different stuff. And we're talking about Hemispheres by Rush. Maybe a little bit of an underrated album. Well, I don't like to use that term underrated, because underrated suggests that some people out there don't like it, and I don't think, or not that people don't like it, but people don't appreciate it, and I don't think that's the case. I think it's just not a radio-friendly album in the classic sense of that. It's not an album that you'll see a lot of radio stations don't play albums like this. This is for the person who really enjoys the deep cuts of albums, that the progressive movement in general, songs that are not so commercial sounding, that kind of thing. Doesn't mean that they're less of an album than some of these, so AC/DC's Back in Black sold 30 million and this one sold like about 1 million. Doesn't mean that album is 30 times better. It's just, it appeals more to the masses. So the masses find that album hugely appealing, and they don't find this as appealing. But for the people who like this kind of music and like this genre, this is a great album. Rush's Hemispheres, I think. It has basically 3 tracks. The first one is the second book of the Cygnus X1. I guess you would call it a storyline. So the first part is on Farewell to Kings, and the second part is here. And then you have the flip side, which has Circumstances, The Trees, and La Villa Strongado. Probably not many Rush albums have such a strong B-side as this one. And all 3 of these songs are fantastic. One of the greatest instrumentals in, I think, prog history, in La Villa Strangiato, or Strangiato, however you want to say it. Trees has always been one of my favorite songs, and Circumstances probably was the first song I ever liked on the album. So, good clear sound, I think. Very, very nice production, and the band is pumping on all cylinders here, pushing it to the absolute nth degree instrumentally, like trying to push it beyond their abilities. and that's why I chose this album. I just think it's one of their best for prog fans. Okay, the next album is not a prog album, and I may take a little bit of a hit for this one. It's a hard rock, kind of a hard rock pop album, I guess. There's actually, I think there's 5 covers on this album. So let me check here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's 5 covers on this album, which is a huge amount of covers for an album. But the stuff that isn't a cover is really good too. And it's a clear sounding album. I have always enjoyed it for that particular reason. It's talking about Diver Down by Van Halen. Is it one of their best albums? Maybe not. Some people would put it right down there near the bottom. Others might like it quite a bit. It's got some poppiness to it. But the tracks that sound really good on this, we have Where Have All the Good Times Gone that they covered from the Kinks, really solid. I think their version of Pretty Woman is as good as Roy Orbison's, probably better. I always enjoyed it better. Big Bad Bill's always been one of my favorite tracks on this album. They like to do those kind of old bluesy numbers or jazzy numbers from the past, and this fits really well. I know some people don't like Happy Trails. I think they did a good job on it, though, considering it's not really a rock song. And of course, Dancing in the Streets was a big kind of radio-friendly song of the day. That and Pretty Woman were both the big friendly ones of the day. But there was some stuff on here that they wrote, so if you take those 5 tracks off, and there's 12 on here, you're left with 7 solid tracks, and they're all good. That's a good album right there. Hang 'Em High, love that track. Cathedral has a really nice crispy sound to it. I really like that song a lot. Secret's pretty good track as well. Little Guitars, outstanding track. The intro part, and then of course the song Little Guitars, really solid track. And then probably one of the most unrelated or unrated and doesn't get its due is Full Bug. That is one of Van Halen's best songs. It's on this album right towards the end. So I gave him one hard rock album just because maybe he wants to try a hard rock album, and this one's pretty easy to listen to, I think. The next album is a group that many may or may not know. The artwork on it is fantastic. The sound on this is better than any of the other previous albums. I think it's just really clear. The bass is a bit forward, but the guy's really talented, so I'm willing to put up with it because sound is so good. And we're talking about, for those of you who know this band, Wobbler, Hinterland. They're a they're a Norwegian band, progressive rock band. There are 4 tracks on this album. All of them are really solid, really good sound, nice, really solid instrumentation. The only thing about this album that, and I find this with Warbler in general, is that vocals aren't as good as some other progressive bands, but still, they're not bad at all. The instrumentation, though, is really good. The first song, Serenade for 1652, I love that song. It's really solid. And then the title track, which is really epic. It's a really epic 27-minute song here. All four of the songs on here are over. The Rubato Industry is the shortest at 12:42. The rest are all over that. So, you've got some really solid progressive stuff. I think I'm just going to take it out because I can't remember, because I've listened to this maybe 3 times since I got it, and each time I like it. So you've got Rubato Industry and Hinterland are both the vocal tracks on here, and I believe the other 2 are instrumental. And this is a picture of the guys, the 4 or 5 guys in the band for this particular album. I believe they have a different vocalist now, but Don't quote me on that because I'm just discovering them, and I only have this one and one other one, which is, I'm not sure where I put it. I'd have to go looking for it. I think it might be up on that rack there. Anyways, Lars Frederick Feuschle. He's mostly a keyboard player playing Hammond, Mini Moog, Mellotron, grand piano, glockenspiel as well, reed organ, Rhodes Mark II stage piano, of course, clavinet, harpsichord, and a lot of string melodies as well. So this guy plays all the kind of keyboard instruments that I love on my progressive rock. He's very good. Martin Nordrum Neppen. Okay, let me get that right. Martin Nordrum Neppen, or Kneppen, if you want to pronounce the K. I don't, because I'm English. Ludwig special drums and percussion. Pretty solid drummer here. Christian Karl Hutgren. He plays the Rickenbacker bass and saxophones. This guy is a really good bass player. That's the first thing I noticed about this band the first time through, is how good the bass player was. Martin Andres Eriksson. He plays the Gibson and Martin acoustic guitars. And then Tony Johansson is the lead vocalist. Now, his vocals aren't bad by any stretch. They're good, but they're not as strong as some of the other instrumentation. And he only sings on a couple songs on here too, where I find this not totally unheard of for more modern progressive rock bands. A lot of them, and this goes for a lot of genres, they tend to play more instrumentals and not as much vocal as they did in the past with a lot of bands. And sorry, I just put this in backwards, so I'm going to flip it around. So yeah, so the last album for the Look to See is this one, Wobbler, Hinterland. This is their actually debut album. I do have one other one, and I intend to get them all because they're so good. Another band that I quite like, and I didn't include them, and I'm just going to mention them because I don't actually have any of their albums at the moment, but I've been enjoying listening to their stuff through the internet, and they were recommended from a couple of other sites, so I started listening to them on the internet and tend to get some of them, and that's the Flower Kings. I think their albums are pretty solid too. And that they were the reason I didn't choose them, is I wanted to have the props so I could go over them in fairly detailed amount of time that I have. So so I chose these 5, and honorable, I guess, mentions. If you're going to do honorable mentions for this kind of show, we go to the Flower Kings, which I intend to get a lot more of their stuff. So I'm just going to do them again according to the way they're set up now. Wobblers Hinterland is one of them. Van Halen Diver Down is another one. I always like the cover of this. I know it's not one of Van Halen's more popular albums, but I happen to like it quite a bit. Rush's Farewell to Kings. Porcupine Tree's Light Bulb Sun. That's a pretty decent cover too. This is my first experience with Porcupine Tree. And then, of course, the Mighty King Crimson and their Lark's Tongues in Aspic album. Nice inside shot of the band as well. So there you have it. Those are the 5 I chose for today. Anybody got something to say about them that maybe I'm missing, or maybe you don't think that they have that kind of a sound that I think? That's fine. I'm just going on what my ear hears, and my ears aren't so good, the same as my eyes aren't so good. Pretty soon I'll be part of the Tommy Brigade there. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you got something out of this gamish. This was for you. It was a request for you, and I wanted to make sure you got it. So have a good evening, and please like and subscribe. It'd be much appreciated. And we'll be back tomorrow with another album. Take care. Bye.